Here's a look at some of the papers on April Fool's Day, as they call it, the 1st of April 2024. We begin with the Abuja Inquirer, who leads with an Easter story. Yes, it's Easter, but things are tough. Let's subscribe to Nigerians. Prices remain high for goods and services. Economists rule out early price crash. A lot of other stories on the front page, but that's the lead story of the Abuja Inquirer this morning. Check it out. The details are on the inside pages. Next is the New Telegraph, and it is also talking about Easter. Kuka demands robust template for Nigeria's healing process. Find the details on the inside pages, but look at the writers. False use of hunters, vigilantes to tackle terrorism. Be hopeful, prayerful to surmount current challenges, Khan urges Nigerians. Emulate Christ's sacrificial spirit, Senate leader. Pray for peace, economic prosperity, security, ACF tells Christians. That's the lead story. All of that you find details of on the inside pages, and right below the picture on the front page. Insecurity. We're pushing towards final onslaught. That's ascribed to the Chief of Army Staff. And the writers say, Lord's personnel assures of improved welfare. Last days of Ramadan, GNI calls for special prayers against hunger, poverty, insecurity. Let's go to the Daily Times newspaper this morning. It also leverages that Kuka story. Bishop Kuka to FG. Front page of the Daily Times. Provide templates that will put Nigeria on path of national healing. Details on page 4. Look at the writer. Says the path must include deliberate policy of inclusion that will end immoral culture of nepotism. Details of all of that you find on the inside pages. Now that picture on the front page is interesting, isn't it? It's that of the Nigerian Navy operating base Escravos identifying and deactivating an illegal refining site laden with stolen crude at Agbogoro community in Delta State. The details you may find on the inside pages. The Daily Trust newspaper has this on its front page. Kebbi residents loot government private warehouses. What does all of that mean? Look at the writers. Palliatives not solution to hardship. Ascribed to Bayelsa Governor. Kuka charges Tinubu on food and physical security. You find the details of that on the inside pages of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. This Nigeria newspaper leverages the same story. Angry youths loot palliatives in Kebbi as NDLEA seizes consignment of psychoactive substances hidden in noodles in Bayelsa. Heard that before? But that story is on page 4. The Leadership newspaper is talking about something everyone else is talking about on the new media. Debt crisis. Sani El-Rufai's Cold War continues. Who would have thought, some might say. APC suspends former governor's loyalist and women leader. Rift reflects party's failure. That's ascribed to Lukman. Have been vindicated. That's ascribed to Sheikh Husani. Details of that you'll find on the inside pages, page 4 to be precise. And right above that one, Easter. Things will get better. Governors, clerics assure Nigerians. Well, if you want more persuasion, the story is on page 7 of the Leadership newspaper this morning. Now let's look at what the Nigerian News Direct leads with. It's the same Ubasani story. Uba's revelation sparks fresh concerns on debt profile, financial stability of states. That story is on page 2. Now, if you look right beside that story is a chart of sorts of the domestic debt data for the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory as at December 31, 2023. That document is from the Debt Management Office right there on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct. As Serap gives Wike others 7 days to publish loan agreements, account for 5.9 trillion naira and $4.6 billion loans. Details of all of that you'll find on the inside pages of the Nigerian News Direct this morning. Look at Vanguard newspaper. Vanguard newspaper focuses on the recapitalization agenda of the banks as announced by the CBN. Banks sweat over exclusion of 3.8 trillion naira retained profit Find the details of that on page 20 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. It is unfair to banks, shareholders. That's according to investment analysts. Details of those are the riders right there. Another one, exclusion in line with base 3 standards, according to CBN source. Analysts project forex inflow, further naira appreciation. See fresh mergers and acquisitions happening soon. Details of that, if you're interested, and I think you will be, on page 20 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. And it's in the spirit of the season that I would like to take Mr. and Mrs. this morning. Mrs. is looking at Mr. You finished the food? Oh my God, this is good. You've not complained about my cooking for some time now. And Mr. says, with the economic recession, every meal is delicious. Who would have thought? Well, the Vanguard newspaper, the details of the stories on the inside page. It's Daily Independent leverages that same story. CBN new capital base. 5 lenders may seek license downgrade. Remember that the CBN had said there are internationally authorized banks and then there are nationally authorized banks. The details of that you'll find on the inside pages of the paper this morning. And the Guardian newspaper, we close with the Guardian newspaper this morning, which leads with oil theft persists in Niger Delta despite militarization and private security. That story is on page 6. Some infographics on the front page there include reported oil theft incidences in the first quarter of this year, and 2,426 oil theft incidents reported in the first quarter as oil production struggles to hit 1.78 million barrels per day target. And that ends a look at some of the papers today. What is your take? Send us a mail. We'll be glad to read.
All right, yeah, so there you go. Well, some of the issues that stick out here are, for instance, this looting of government and private warehouses. Look, I think because this appears to be, there's an impending danger for this kind of scenario. Now, it's gone beyond government warehouses to private warehouses. Who knows, tomorrow it could be private institutions and companies and organizations. A group of people who feel certain things can just constitute themselves, and then in the name of hunger and hardship, get in and loot certain things. So I think the authorities need to have a very, very curious, deep thought and strategy or something needs to happen about all of these things. Yes, cost of living is a challenge, but if everybody were to go hit the street, and it will be a madhouse. I know they're talking about what should be done about price control. Is it possible? Isn't it possible? But for those who say no, that it shouldn't be done, nothing can be done about it. Look, we've also seen in the same country where people give all kinds of reasons. Some as, well, funny as you may call it, they blame it on the dollar. The dollar exchange rate rising. And then, of course, you know,
the Naira begins to appreciate.
When it appreciates, they never revert. They just never. So in that kind of case, what do you do to such people? Because they clearly are just manipulating and profiteering, clearly. So what happens to those kind of people? Is it supposed to be acceptable? Because if some people think they can do it and get away with it, why shouldn't other people do it? So if there are no measures to deter people, why will other people not do it? So we need to have a deep look, because in some of the other claims there's a threshold that you just can't wake up and arbitrarily fix privacy. Go to supermarkets, global, international. There's that threshold there. You can't just unilaterally just fix some of these things. So we know that we lack a lot of things here, but we need to rein in some of these things because, look, a stitch in time saves 9.
Indeed, Chamberlain, a stitch in time saves 9. Just taking a look at the front page of Leadership, and just one story I'm looking at there, and look at that. Syndicate hired to burn Borno IDP camps nabbed. And you have to ask, what exactly is going on? I mean, to what length shall we take this? Is it criminality, indiscipline? What do you want to call it, you know? And that's why one really needs to be very careful when you see some things, and we just say, oh, it was just a fire, or no, it's because of hardship. When people plan to do things like this, syndicate, hired by who? It's a big story for me. Hired by who? Who profits when people who are already displaced and, already feel, pretty hard done by, now have the little belongings that they have burnt, have nowhere to put their heads. Who profits off that? A really big question. So that story, page 19, might also catch your attention. It's on the front page of leadership newspapers.
Well, yes, thank you, Marco. For me, the story that sticks out is the one on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. It's where the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs is addressing governors, saying governors should stop asking the president to curb insecurity in their states. This is exactly how it's said. NSCIA to governors, stop asking Tinubu to curb insecurity in your states. A number of people have continued to raise issues about insecurity in states, and I remember the former President Buhari saying when in an interview, and I think it was one that we conducted with him here at Channel Television, and we said one governor came to him to complain about insecurity in the state, and he said he sent him back to go and address the issues in the state. Well, whether or not that is relevant, I guess we stand to see over time. The military always has to intervene from time to time, and the military is definitely federal controlled. That is understandable. But then there is also the issue of the local government administrations. There are those who believe that security consultants have come here and told us over and over again that the first line of defense, especially military officers, retired military officers whom we have hosted, told us over and over again that the first line of defense for insecurity, against insecurity in any state, is the local government level. And we have also been told by administrators of local government authorities here in this studio in Nigeria that they have their own security committees, which comprise of community development associations, comprise of officers of the local government, comprise of traditional rulers and other community leaders. And in the communities, they know themselves. Everybody knows everybody. So why are we waiting for the federal government to do something that we should have done at first at home? There are those who have also said over and over again that the people who are fomenting this insecurity in the different states where these things happen, they are not unknown to the people. So exactly what are we waiting for? There are those who would naturally queue behind the NSCIA on this particular matter, telling them, governors, focus on the insecurity in your states and do whatever you need to do about it. So it goes back to the young people. Help us do what is needful, because we need to sell Nigeria, but charity begins at home. That's back to you, Chamberlain.
So some of the issues that we'll highlight today being Easter and, of course, big focus on the polity. How do we ensure things are done right and we get the kind of results we want? We'll talk about that in a moment. Stay on with us.